Welcome to the video. This is part 2 of my breakup series, so if you want to watch part 1, I will link it in the description. However, you don't need to watch part 1 to understand part 2. Part 1, we went through the psychological timeline of the breakup, so from the moment it happened to 12 months after, what's happening in your brain chemistry and why you feel the way you do. I also shared 17 tips to help you get through it and the best advice I've heard, and then I shared a little bit of my story. In this video, I will be sharing possible reasons for the breakup and what your ex might be feeling right now. We're going to be doing that by digging into attachment styles and understanding what yours is and how you can use that to make your relationships in the future better. And then we're going to go over some practical tips that you can implement today to get you feeling better. I do start out this video by giving you some of the final tips, and then we're going to go into attachment styles and then the practical tips at the end. I'll be linking timestamps in the description if you just want to watch a certain part. So let's get right into it. The final point of the last video was just talking about how feeling it is really going to help, and you want to make sure to feel all those sad feelings and emotions while also knowing that they're not forever. The depth that you feel it is also the depth that you're going to recover. A lot of times in life, we fear the most not what's going to happen exactly, but how it's going to make us feel. There's this quote my dad always says, "Do the thing you fear the most and fear will surely die." Your fears will get less and less if you feel those feelings. Another tip is to forgive yourself and forgive them. We're all humans, so nobody is perfect, and relationships are really unique in the way that they uncover our flaws and help us get better. For my women out there, remember that in the Bible it says, "He who finds himself a wife finds himself a good thing." You obviously have to put yourself in places where you can be found, but remember that you are the treasure and that you are a good thing, and that if they want to pursue you, they will. Another thing I saw is that married men and single women are the two happiest people groups. So congratulations, you are now in the single women category and you have the potential to be one of the happiest humans. I thought that was super funny and interesting, and it makes sense. But that leads me to another tip, which is do not blame the whole gender for the person that you dealt with. No, not all men are bad. There are so many good guys out there. That's another reason why I think it's good to have friends that are in healthy relationships, because you will see that there are good men out there and there's one waiting for you. You are not doing any good for anyone if you are hating men or hating women. Another tip is that if you are a female especially, you have the added burden and stress of that internal clock if you want to have kids someday. Know that God is not defined by time. Think about the story of Abraham and Sarah and how God promised him that he would make him the father of many nations. They became very old and impatient. God reaffirmed this to them and they started to doubt God's timing. So Abraham and the servant Hagar had a child, and that was Ishmael, and that was not fulfilling God's promise. So when Sarah was 90 years old, God appeared again and told him that Sarah would bear a son within a year, and she literally laughed in disbelief because she was 90 years old and how could she have a kid at this age? A year later, Isaac was born just as God has promised. And what's really cool is Isaac actually means laughter, and that reflected both Sarah's initial doubt and then later her joy that came from it. This story is super cool about God's promise and how even if we mess it up, he still will fulfill that promise. Timing is not something that is in our own hands, and God's plans are way greater than our doubts. If we try to take it in our own hands, that'll bring forth a lot of unnecessary struggles like Sarah had with Hagar. The story is also still repeating today. Another point is that relationships are hard and they're sacrificial. That is the whole point of them, so that we grow each other and that we see where we need to get better so that we can become stronger. They're not made to make us happy. They're there so that we can show the love of Christ. So now that you're single, make sure you see it as a blessing because you get the opportunity to not have someone picking out your flaws, which is always nice. Hopefully your ex did not pick out your flaws, but again, that is the point of a relationship, for them to be the mirror, even if it's not in a negative way, but for them to just show you how you can be better. My next tip is only get into another relationship and give to someone else out of the overflow of your love. We're not filled with the love of Christ and confident in yourself and secure and happy with where you're at, you're going to go into a relationship with selfish and unhealthy reasons. It is doing a disservice to both of you if you're going in trying to get something out of them. They cannot give you anything. You have to give everything to yourself or get it from Jesus. Any door that God shuts, no man can open, and any door that God opens, no man can shut. So what I've decided is for the next year, I'm going to have faith that all things are meant to be and that God will align our desires and give me the desires of my heart, whether that be in a relationship or on my own. I definitely had a year or two when I no longer believed in meant to be or the one or anything like that. I was very confused on how, if that's true, there are people that are homeless or people that go through rough divorces and just so many bad and crazy things happen. I felt very unworthy or entitled if I believed that everything was going to work out for good and everything happened for a reason, because I think it is very important that we choose our right actions and we hold ourselves accountable for the consequences of our actions. And while I still think it is true that our actions have consequences, I do also believe that God is working everything for good, and I still struggle with that belief, so I'm giving myself 1 year to have faith and believe everything's happening for a reason. For this next part, we're going to be talking about why they did it and what they might be going through or feeling. We're going to do that through attachment styles. Honestly, I think you should apply this part to yourself and reflect on yourself and how you can be better. But if you are confused and want to know their reasoning and get a glimpse into their point of view, I think this is a really good thing to study. There are 4 attachment styles. There is one that is healthy, and then the rest are unhealthy. The one healthy attachment style is secure. People that are secure will feel comfortable with both intimacy and independence. In a breakup, they will process emotions healthily, seek support, and trust that they'll find love again. There is very few people in this world that are actually secure. It's always a journey to becoming more secure, and you can always do better. And with attachment styles, it's very good to know that they're not permanent. They usually are something that manifests frequently in relationships. So you want to be careful with who you are choosing based on your attachment style, but also they are heavily caused by childhood. So it is very deep within us. But at the same time, we can all benefit from moving closer to secure and knowing why we feel the way we feel. All of the 3 unhealthy attachment styles do have a root of anxiety and pain that they might feel in a relationship. The anxious attachment will crave closeness but fear abandonment. After a breakup, these are the ones to overanalyze, seek reassurance, and wanting to reconnect even if the relationship was unhealthy. Avoidant attachment is people that value independence and may suppress emotions. After a breakup, they may detach quickly, avoiding process feelings and act like they're fine even if they're hurting. A fearful avoidant, or some people call it a disorganized attachment, is a mix of anxious and avoidant traits. These individuals want closeness but fear getting hurt. Breakups for them can feel chaotic, triggering both a need for connection and a fear of intimacy. That one is definitely the most complicated because it bounces back and forth between the 2. So I have some questions for you so that you can determine your attachment style if none of those really resonated with you. Remember that attachment style is completely different from personality, so it's not something that you see when you're single or on an everyday basis. It's something that comes up in the deepest, hardest moment of your life. Usually you can only see it when you are in a romantic relationship. So determining a friend or family member's attachment style might be hard because a lot of the times in those relationships, the core wounds aren't being triggered. So the breakup is a really good time to figure out what your attachment style is because that's when it's going to be rearing its ugly head the most. So the first question is, how do you feel when someone pulls away in a relationship? If your answer to this is, I get really anxious and I try to get closer to them. If they don't text back, you're wanting to text again and again. This probably means that you are anxious. The positives of anxious people is that they really love deeply. They really see the other person as someone they can trust. But the negatives is that they don't really trust themselves or have that security in themselves. And also they can be really selfish in the way they try to get attention and think about themselves and their needs when someone just needs space. If your answer to that question is, I don't really care or I feel relieved when they pull away, you're probably avoidant. Avoidant people usually get the most criticisms when it comes to attachment styles because they're the ones that usually pull away pretty abruptly and feel most comfortable and happy within themselves. But we really have to make sure that we have sympathy for them and that you don't take their need for space as anything personal because it really is programmed in them from childhood that they're only safe alone. We need to have a lot of sympathy for that and make sure that they feel comfortable in relationships. A secure person would answer this question by saying, I feel uncomfortable, but I can handle it. Secure people, we obviously go through all the emotions, the timeline that I talked about, but at the end of the day, it's something that you can get through and you can handle. A fearful, avoidant, or disorganized would say, I feel both anxious and like I should pull away too. So it's like the teeter-tottering back and forth between, okay, now I need to pull away because they are doing whatever, and oh my goodness, I might need to get them back, sort of thing. Another question you can ask is, how do you typically respond after a breakup? The anxious person will say, I feel heartbroken and I struggle to move on. Or the anxious person might hop into another relationship to get that validation again. The avoidant will feel relief initially after a breakup, so they will distract themselves and avoid thinking about it. Again, you can't take this relief that they feel after a breakup or them moving on too quick as a hit on your confidence because it really is sad that they don't feel comfortable and happy in a relationship. And that is not their fault, but it is their responsibility to work on themselves and not get into relationships unless they can think about the other person. Secure person would answer, I feel sad, but I trust I'll be okay. Secure people would again go through the normal stages. Fearful avoidance would say, I want them back, but I also push them away. So again, it is that really confusing back and forth. Another question is, how comfortable are you with deep emotional intimacy? The anxious person will say, I love it, but I worry they'll leave me. Anxious is usually the oversharer, doing all this stuff to try to get validation. But again, you can't take it out on them. Usually in childhood, childhood, it's because someone that they love was inconsistent or not there for them. So they really tried to get that attention and love and validation. The avoidant does not open up easily, so it's hard for them to have tough, emotional, mature conversations. Secure people feel safe sharing emotions and being close. Fearful avoidants want closeness but fear being hurt or rejected. Another question is, how do you handle conflict in relationships? Anxious people get anxious immediately and they need reassurance. Avoidant people also feel that anxiety, but that anxiety leads them to shut down and pull away, not to go to that person for reassurance. Secure people communicate and work it out effectively, and fearful avoidants will overreact but then pull away later. Another question is, what are your biggest fears in relationship? The anxious person will say being abandoned or not being enough. The avoidant will say losing my independence or feeling trapped. And the secure will say losing a healthy connection, but I trust that love will come again. The fearful avoidant would say getting close to someone and then getting hurt. Another question is, how do you feel about being single? The anxious would hate it and feel like they need to be in a relationship to feel okay. The avoidants will still crave that connection, but really enjoy their independence and not think about getting into a relationship as much. Secure people would say, I'm content being single, but open to love when it comes. A fearful avoidant would say, I feel torn. I want love, but also push it away. The last question is, how do you approach dating when you're single? The anxious person would get attached quickly and worry if they like me enough. The avoidant would keep their distance and avoid emotional depth. Also, the avoidant might jump in quickly because at first it is very comfortable for them, but then when it comes time to have real emotional closeness and depth, that's when they're going to want to keep it surface level or be off the door. A secure person approaches dating with their logic and not just emotions, and they take it day by day and just communicate as the process goes on to see if that person is a fit for them. Fearful avoidant would say, I want closeness, but also get scared and push people away. So again, it is the back and forth for the disorganized or fearful avoidant. So after these questions, you may have identified one of those attachments and realized that your ex might as well. I would say most breakups are actually due to the attachment styles. These could manifest in a zillion different ways of like why the breakup happened and the exact triggers that led you to that moment. But it really is just triggers and deep core feelings that we will feel when we are in these relationships and lead us to the breakup. What's so hard about this is it's very easy to look at the situations for just the situations, but in reality, those situations are what brought up those deep core feelings, and you feel them so real and so deeply when they are your attachment style. So it is very confusing whether it's that person's attachment style or yours. Usually it's a combination of both that leads to the breakup. If you're able to identify those and look into that, I think you might be able to understand your ex a lot better, which is actually healthy for everyone, because to get through a breakup, I think the ultimate goal is to feel indifferent, not hate towards that person, or obviously not love and missing that person, but just to feel neutral and indifferent about them. And hopefully, if you can understand what they went through and the moments that led them to where they are now, you might have reacted or done something similar, even though it seems so foreign to you. And just have grace overall for what we all as humans go through, because it's all different. And if you have a different attachment style, it might be very confusing because you might treat them as a version of yourself and love them in a way that you wanted to receive love. But we do have to realize that we are all different people and we receive and communicate in completely different ways. So I am done with my ramble, and now I have some practical tips that you can implement today. First tip is to hang posters on your wall. I hung some Bible verses right across from my bed so I can see them right when I wake up and pray over them. I can link some Bible verses and quotes below. Second tip is to listen to worship music. I will also leave some songs right here that are really great and have been helping me. And if you're not a Christian, maybe try it, but also you can listen to just positive music overall. Once you're past month one, we want to listen to positive and uplifting music. I'll also leave some non-Christian songs in the description that are positive and helpful. Next tip is to find and book a new hobby, maybe something that you loved to do when you were a kid and just haven't had the time to do it for a while. Another thing you can do is order some good supplements for your brain health. You're going to be needing that extra support. So I take magnesium at night and L-tyrosine in the day, and it really helps with my brain health. You probably are magnesium deficient, so I linked some of my favorites below, but you can get anyone and they'll work. Another thing you want to do is create a Pinterest board, and we want to create a dream that is not one that involves a relationship at the time being. We want a different dream and a new life goal that we can work towards, because chances are we were working and putting in all that time with the goal being a life with them in mind. So we want to create a new dream and get inspired and create a cute Pinterest board about it. Take melatonin at night if you're struggling with sleeping, but be careful about not taking too much because you can become reliant on it. it. Another thing is app blockers. I downloaded some apps where it will block off social media and anything negative through certain times of the day. I think those are just really good in general, so those will help you as well. Next thing is this journal has been incredible. It is Praying Through Singleness. I know the cover isn't the cutest, but I got it for $1.99 on Amazon, and I will also link this below. It has the cutest little passage every single day. It's applied perfectly through what I'm going through, and no matter what stage you are, I think this is a great journal to work through. Another journal, this is the one I came out with. This is based on brain science as well, and it reminds you to be grateful every morning and night. This will definitely help rewire your brain, so I will link both of those below. Another tip is obviously read your Bible. I will give book recommendations in the description of where to start if you are looking for that. There's incredible studies that come with reading your Bible and what it does to your brain. I think after 4 or 7 days, it really starts changing your brain chemistry and how you feel. Another practical tip, work out, basic things, drink water, eat healthy, get good sleep, don't jump into a rebound. All right, I have to run. I'm going to a thrift store, but I am so happy that you watched, and I will be praying over everyone who's watched this video and genuinely so thankful that you took the time to spend with me. Make sure to hit that subscribe and like button if you want to support me and all my hours that I probably spent editing this. So I would really appreciate that. And I love you all so much. This could not be helpful at all. I don't know, but if this helps one person, I will consider it worth it. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will see you in the next video.